All that matters is... Wrong! This town deserves a better class.
Heavy Metal Podcast.
I'm gonna get a... If you do not listen, then the hell with you.
Walk through the gate of consciousness. Stop from
yes. Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Chinese New Year, non-Chinese New Year, and all the other celebrations we invented to keep us from freezing to death while waiting for the return of the sun. And while we are also between seasons here at And Volume for All, my workshop of elven slave ployees have gone into overtime, furiously wielding their tiny, pathetic hammers to bring you a new episode on my selections for the 2024 Albums of the Year. Now, if you are a beautiful Mother Puncher already and know this podcast, you know that I can't just do an Album of the Year episode where I list my top 10 favorites for 2024 and then play some songs from them. I gotta turn it into the weirdest term paper you've ever read, complete with probing questions about the nature of art and a makeshift impression of Sean Connery as an irascible Saint Nick. Merry Christmas, you fucking loser. Thank you, Sean. And because, as always, this is a deeply reverent and lovingly irreverent exploration of the history, philosophy, and future of the greatest music in the world, heavy metal, I've been doing some thinking. What elevates an album from perfunctory 45th studio release by Sabaton to a contender for Album of the Year? And today, I'm going to attempt to answer that question. So, thank you for joining me on this little journey. Quick preface here. I have not enumerated these albums. I have carefully selected count 'em, four of my favorite releases this year, which I think demonstrates some of the unique qualifications required to be considered one of the best albums of this year, 2024, the year of our Lord, Iomi, bless. You know, I have that whole thing about best versus favorite and how those two should be different lists, even if sometimes they overlap. Well, this collection of 4 records are the absolute best of my favorite albums. The objectively outstanding records among my subjective favorites, which is kind of what all albums of the year lists are, right? For example, you won't hear the new Opeth or Blood Incantation records on this episode because I don't really love either of those bands, and I don't know how to compare them to the new Uncle Acid and the Deadbeats, a band whose discography I know like Dave Ellefson knows the back of his hand, his right hand. His left hand is just a side piece for when he's drunk and desperate. So let's begin our journey through Quinn's Spotify history and subsequent vinyl collection with a subgenre I know you know I love, sludge. That is a 4-piece out of Galway, Ireland called 10-Ton Slug. Although based on the cover art, this slug weighs decidedly more than a mere 10 tons. I guess I got Trump's doctor to do the physical, I don't know. The band formed in 2015, and the album in question, called Colossal Oppressor, is their first full-length LP. 10-Ton Slug comes out of the rich cultural tradition of slug-themed heavy metal, including the neo-thrash band out of England called Brain Slug, with fun titles like Battle Kite, Dead Plastic Baby, and my favorite, Thrash Grandad. And not to be overlooked is the true granddad of the slug-centric metal of the universe, a blackened death sludge band named Slugj. That's sludge, but with an extra G added to make the band Slugj, which is as difficult to say as it is for your wife to listen to. Unless she's a nasty slut. All right, let's not insult our listeners. Slugj, this is the hardest fucking episode to pronounce, is also sort of a funny band, with song titles like Crop Killer, Slave Goo World, and the outstandingly coined Salt Thrower. Like Bolt Thrower, but for slugs. But unlike Brain Slug and Slugj, 10-Ton Slug employs an admittedly silly premise to say something of real meaning, without the faintest hint of satire, sarcasm, or silliness. Sean? What? I was just alliterating with S's. I thought, maybe you're a sheep's cunt? No, and please, don't call me that. After all, it's Christmas. On Colossal Oppressor, 10-Ton Slug envisioned the terrible reign of a world-annihilating garden pest with absolutely crystalline sincerity. Here are some of the lyrics from a song titled Mindless and Blind, and then I'll play a bit for you. A furious obsession with questioning the past, shoulders carried nations, preserving life to the last. One ignored the wisdom given. Now she chokes on its ash. That sounds kind of heavy, no? Well, as our nameless heroine's story progresses, we get a futile attempt to save a brother. Eternal. Anger now shreds the past. For those who are blind, things come at a price. The guilt and shame for life. Now you are a useless traitor who knows of nothing else. Thinking that all's forgotten, you shall face your fate now, and so shall we all. As time continues its inexorable march forward, the initial thesis statement of any subgenre slowly but surely starts to expand and add layers of meaning to its original nature. For example, black metal was really defined by its second wave of Scandi edgelord tweens screaming about Satan in their grandmother's basement. And now you have bands like Primordial, which mixes black metal and Celtic folk music, or Death Heaven, combining black metal and shoegaze and giving birth to the avant-garde subgenre of black gaze, which is also the new screen name of North Carolina's former Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson. I'm making you work for that one. What started as sludge has really become what is now known as sludgecore. Bands like Gaza and I Hate God, which are just pure, unadulterated blue-collar nihilism. But the genre has grown to include bands like prog sludge champions every year since 2002 Mastodon, and one of my new favorites, Amun-Ra, which could be described as spiritual post-sludge. It's almost the antithesis of how sludge began, from an absolute rejection of any positive belief to an exaltation of the human spirit through sludge. So what we're left with is not really an ideology or lack thereof, but more like a texture. Can I define the meaning of sludge as an umbrella term for everything it contains? Not anymore. But like the sound of a wildebeest drowning in a pit of rice pudding and old tires, you know it when you hear it. Is that just me? Okay, that's just me. Anyway, you're about to hear it. That is the aforementioned Mindless and Blind, wherein 10-Ton Slug absolutely nails the texture of sludge. But the reason why this album is an album of the year for me is because 10-Ton Slug manages to find every corner of their given sound and even expand it, so that music previously considered unsludge-worthy can be welcomed under our terribly depressing umbrella. Like this little echo of the first track that I played called The Ooze, which shows up halfway through Colossal Oppressor as a little Diary of a Madmanish acoustic number titled Ghosts of the Ooze. Take a listen, and then I'm going to bleed this song into its follow-up track that includes some of the telltale beedly-deedlies of prog metal on a song called Malacht Ant Slada. I think. Malacht Ant Slada. Wow. That actually really worked. Thank you, Sean.
Stuff it, you big-faced fuck basket.
Okay. Here you go. And finally, the hallmark of any great record of any terrible year, the album closer, Mogor the Unkind, in which an Irish sludge band shows that it also knows how to doom. But enough about sludge. There's never enough about sludge. It's time to leave the Earth to Slugton and his slaves, though I for one welcome our gastropod overlords, and make our way into outer space, but in the future, church, as envisioned by the 70s, in Sweden, and an album called Vermilion Sky by Swedish psychedelic stoner doom guys. Skraeckoedlan. Whew. Oh, I made it. But I think I might have pulled my flurgan. The band took their name from the titular monster in the movie The Beast from 2000 Fathoms. 2000 Fathoms, huh? That's a lot of thinking down there, I guess. Skraeckoedlan also means terrible lizard in Swedish, and the modernized Latin version of those two words in their original Greek translate back into English as dinosaur, even though dinosaurs are reptiles and not lizards. All this and more on the next How Did He Ever Get Laid? So I recommended this album to my brother, Ryan, who some of you know, and he said he recommended their last album to me, but that I didn't listen to it because of the album cover, of which I supposedly said, and I quote, "It looks like the cover of a young adult novelization of the film The Mummy." To which I naturally responded, "That doesn't sound like me at all. That's clearly you projecting your need for ego gratification onto me." He's totally right. It does look like that. Vermilion Sky's album art, however, is the retrofuturism of George Lucas and Ridley Scott. It has that same aesthetic that The Sword used on their third album, Warp Riders, which I love. It's a mixture of nostalgia and space travel that gives the future a feeling of familiarity or reality. It's sometimes referred to as used future. And I assume that's what the lyrics are like as well, but I have no idea and I don't care because it sounds like this. And this is a song called, you guessed it, Star Squatch, 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 Squatch. Star Squatch. gets roll pretty, but don't worry, these Swedish boys know their way around a tractor beam, and shit starts to feel pretty heavy soon enough. And just the right amount like another Space Swede album, Mariner by Cult of Luna, as they are pulled into the orbit of planet Post-Metal, home to the noble alien race known as the Binu Ninu. And this is all the same song, by the way, still on Starsquatch. And then, if it weren't for the fuzziness of the guitar tone and the gallopy, neon nightsy quality, we could almost call it power metal. Starsquatch! On the album's title track, Skraeckoedlan manages to nail one of my favorite things to hear on any album, and that is when the music is crafted to sound like what the song is actually about. I know, it sounds simple, but it's one of my simple pleasures. Mastodon were the absolute best at this at one point, basing their first 4 records on the elements of fire, water, earth, and air. And the albums as a whole actually sound like those elements. Go listen to Sleeping Giant off of Blood Mountain. Not only does it have a distinctly earthy vibe to it, but it also sounds like a giant waking up to go out for his morning constitutional. Skraeckoedlan have managed to perfectly capture the experience of retro-futuristic space travel here. If there were any song to which I would like to fly through an asteroid field in 1974 with my co-pilot, Henrik Bergqvist, it would be Vermilion Sky. times, this album really reminds me of another space travel as metaphor for losing your soul or your mind or your wallet or something. 2013 concept album, Delusions of Grandeur, by the Norwegian doom band Slug. Now, Slug is pretty hit and miss for me, but that album fucking slaps. If you haven't heard it, go listen to Delusions of Grandeur. Merry Flurgen Christmas. All right, so far, pretty straightforward. For the most part, 10-Ton Slug and Skraeckoedlan know how to paint inside the lines and where to get weird with it, but sometimes an album is so audacious, such an imaginative departure from previous work while still maintaining the musical pedigree that they have established, that you just have to marvel at the achievement of it, even if you don't love it. And in 2024, we got just such an album from the doom metal standard bearers out of Cambridge, England, guided by the uncompromising and unsettling musical vision of one Kevin R. Starr, frontman of the one and the only Uncle Acid and the Deadbeats. The band have been blending the sound of Black Sabbath and the Beatles with the gothic horror aesthetic of Hammer films since 2010. The subject matter thus far includes witch hunters with dubious motives, doomsday cults, Victorian night stalkers, and dystopian futurescapes, in that order. And there has always been a visual component to Uncle Acid. If you see them in concert, they run a B-roll montage of horror films, news clips, and generally just unnerving images of depravity and death that matches up to whatever song they're playing at the moment. But their sixth album, Nell or a Blue, is a full-on soundtrack, including scenes of dialogue from a film which doesn't actually exist. It's based on their favorite Italian noir cinema. Kevin Starr even hired two Italian actors famous for their work in the genre to record the dialogue, and true to form, it's dark shit. One scene is just the sound of a man who has been lured to a phone booth out in the Italian equivalent of West Virginia, knifed to death, as the voice on the other end reads a prepared semi-religious lecture on morality in a lifeless monotone. It's way fucked. But I can imagine that everyone is not down with it. When I sent the album to my brother, Ryan, for some reason is getting a lot of feedback on this episode. Anyway, I sent my brother the album, and I was extorting the virtues of the record as an unprecedented innovation in the subgenre of doom metal. His one-line text response was, "Right, but why does it sound like that?" Fair enough. You don't dig it? You don't dig it. But here's my promise to you. Put the record on headphones. Go for a walk, and you will, at various moments throughout the runtime of the album, feel like the coolest motherfucker, not just on your street, but fucking any street, anywhere in the universe. Because it's Uncle Acid, you don't just get cool music to commit crimes to. You get the emotional undercurrent that runs through each of their records and always manages to emerge in startlingly just transcendent ways, turning the sound of doom into a vehicle for something else entirely. Here is why I think this is an album of the year, if not the album of the year. Nell Blue is not what we have come to expect from this band. It still dooms in all the right ways, but its unique genius that I believe will pay huge dividends for the subgenre in the future is that Nell Blue proves that in the right hands, anything can doom. From 60s surf pop to 70s jazz rock to Nina Simone. If Nina Simone were trailing you while wearing a trench coat with blood-encrusted fingernails, a Bowie knife, and shark eyes. Like this. Kind of a feeling good vibe there, no? Like feeling good while stabbing you real bad. But if the disorienting psychedelic soundscapes and bleak as a dead baby bird dialogue doesn't do it for you, and you just want some of the good old-fashioned Uncle Acid doing what they do best, there's some of that for you too. And just what is it that Uncle Acid does best? In a word, riffs. In 2 words, motherfucking riffs. On Nell Blue, Uncle Acid and the Deadbeats are expanding the palette of their singular, doomic vision, and as a result, exploding the possibilities for a subgenre that when it fails because it relies on what have become highly recognizable, repeated tropes. Nell Blue is a gift to doom metal's future, and I think we all owe Kevin Stars and his band of murdery misfits a debt of gratitude for it. And finally, we've done Swedish, we've done Italian, so as long as this next band doesn't create their own made-up space language by combining a bunch of previously existing tongues, we should be okay. Oh no, it's Dune. That's exactly what they've done. Okay. The reason I saved this one for last is because while the response to the Scottish post-prog sludge masters 2024 release titled Voidkind was largely positive and appropriately glowing, there are still quite a few reservations in a number of the reviews I read and in what I've heard from my fellow Dune fans. The reason for those reservations, I would bet almost entirely, are due to the band's previous album from 2021, Etemen Enka. Dune's sophomore LP is a fucking masterpiece. It's not just a great album. If you are picking up what Dune is laying down, and I most decidedly am, it is one of the best metal records of the 21st century, easily in the middle of my top 10. It is phenomenal. If you have not heard Edmund Enka, go listen to it now, and then come back and finish the episode. Now, the follow-up to Edmund Enka, Voidkind, is another brilliant offering that I think suffers from the fact that Dune had to put out an album after Edmund Enka at some point. From the first moment I heard the song Thirst off of the band's first studio LP, Asheron, it was clear to me that this band understood how to build and release musical tension better than anyone making music at this time. And on their subsequent release, Edmund Enka, they damn near perfected it. On that album, Dune lets you know exactly what they are building up to and the very moment that it's about to land. It is snarl-inducing, head-bobbing, horn-throwing fuckfest of brutal riffs, driving builds, and galactic, cosmic payoffs. So, one might expect Voidkind to come in like a lamb, a bit softer, more careful, to give the discography bingers a little respite before picking right back up where they left off at Edmund Enka. No. That's the album opener, Summa Blasphemia, and just a throat punch of a first track. But as the album progresses, Dune starts coloring a little differently than the last time. Edmund Enka is huge, bold strokes in primary colors, whereas Voidkind is experimenting with a bit of sfumato, as Da Vinci might say, a smoky blending of the lines of demarcation between the build-up and the payoff, so that on the first listen, you're not sure if you should snarl here or head bob there, and where the fuck do the horns come out? It's hard to tell exactly. But like all of my favorite records, this motherfucker grows and deepens with each subsequent spin. This is the third track off of Voidkind called Reliquary. So listen to how the band has added these subtle lifts and falls in unexpected places to that binary build-up payoff strategy of the previous album. Thusly. It's hard to recognize immediately because if you were expecting the 0 and then the 1, Dune starts giving us irrational numbers. The album sneaks up on you, and I found that the more that I listen, the more those peaks and naders reveal themselves, and sometimes in different places entirely depending on the listen. This is a complicated tapestry of sound that does not map easily after one pass. But once the sort of ground, the topography of the songs becomes a bit more familiar, Voidkind starts to kick your ear ass in fantastically unexpected ways. But hey, you don't want to wait around to discover all the artsy-fartsy Brian Eno playing 3D chess bullshit? You're in luck. Because for my money, Voidkind proves once again that Dune are capable of bringing the heavy like almost no one else can. Well, Mother Punchers, thanks for checking back in. Sorry, I'm just getting over a cold, so I sound a little bit like B. Arthur. The holidays can be cold and lonely, my friends, but we've got 10-ton Slug, Skraeckoedlan, Uncle Acid, and Dune in our stockings this year, and boy are my chestnuts roasting. Yeah, that's how I wanted to end it. Please share this episode on Twitter or Blue Sky or Facebook or fucking MySpace if you still got it. And give us a 5-star review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your pod fix. It really helps to let the people know that the volume it is for all. Thanks everybody for listening. This was awesome. Good to check in, and I'll see you in Season 3. Well, by the way, next up is Season 3. You want to know what I'm going to start off with? Well, then you better fuck around and find out. On the next, and volume for all.